All right, folks, it's the Buckeye Blitz. I'm Tito, Jeff Thitoff. We are on FanStream Sports, powered by DST Media. I'm Jeff Thitoff. You can follow me on the X at It Happens, where you can find me there. Also, you can find us on the website, fanstreamsports.com. It's game day. Buckeyes taking on Indiana here on Saturday. Ohio State is a 30.5-point favorite at last check in this one, on the road at Bloomington. Always a little bit weird when Ohio State opens up on the road, especially in a Big Ten game. They seem to start off slow usually, but again, you can't really compare it to past games because it's a completely new situation as far as personnel goes for the most part. So they opened up against Minnesota a few years back, and they struggled early on. Minnesota actually looked like they had a decent shot at maybe being in it right till the end, till their running back got hurt. I can't remember the guy's name, but anyway, Ohio State pulled away in that one. Ohio State always seems to have a little bit of trouble in Indiana, in Bloomington, but they shouldn't on Saturday, depending when you're listening to this. The Buckeyes are 78-12-5 all time against Indiana. The last time Indiana won was when they went back-to-back years during the Cooper years. I think might be Cooper in 1 year, might have been Earl the other one. 87 and 88, though, was the last time Indiana won against Ohio State, and it was in back-to-back seasons. The last time Ohio State didn't win against Indiana, there was a tie, famously, back in 1990, 27-27 there. So, it was announced early in the week, Ryan Day is going to go with Kyle McCord as a starting quarterback. Devin Brown will get time. I fully expect Devin Brown and Kyle McCord to both play in each of the first 2, maybe 3 games. McCord reportedly showed a little more consistency down the stretch as they were figuring out who was going to be, and then Ryan Day finally announced it. And I don't think it's a knock on Devin Brown. I think they both were neck and neck for a good chunk of it. Just McCord had a little more consistency. I'm not surprised it's McCord, the one who's got he's got a start under his belt, whereas Devin Brown doesn't. He's got a lot more playing time, whereas Devin Brown doesn't. So it makes sense. It doesn't mean that Devin Brown couldn't win the job if he played really well in the first few games, but it'll be Kyle McCord's job at first. He'll take the first snap against Indiana, and we'll see how much he plays. Devin Brown will certainly get a share, and who knows after that. It all depends a lot on how the game goes. If they come out and Ohio State's blowing them out, you could see 4 quarterbacks come into this game and play against Indiana. So the offensive line is what's going to really watch for early on when Ohio State's got the balls. Because, look, Ohio State has fantastic, obviously, running backs, tremendous receivers, a bit of an unknown at quarterback, but the offensive line has been the biggest question mark. I don't think anybody was ever worried about who the starting quarterback was going to be for Ohio State. Like, it wasn't going to affect if you think they're going to win some of these games early on or not. It's not going to affect the offensive line. Won't affect it necessarily tomorrow, but I want to see how the offensive line does against competition wearing other jerseys on the road. There's some new people on the offensive line. Joshua Simmons, one of the big ones who came over from San Diego State and has made tremendous progress, is going to be starting on the offensive line for Ohio State. Again, he wasn't great at San Diego State last year for the first 2/3 of the season, but then came on strong after that. And I also want to see what Ohio State does, how often they pass, how aggressive they're going to be. I hope they're very aggressive. And like I say, I want to see what Marvin Harrison, get him involved early, Emeka Egbuka, get him involved early as well. But there's got so many great players on the offensive side of the ball. And I hope that Ohio State does not let up on this one and really pushes the pedal to the metal and, get the starters their time, get out to a big lead, and then put some backups in if you want to. But you need to have this time for the offensive line to gel together because, there's going to be a lot of rotation still on that side of the line, though, with Ohio State. They're going to have a lot of rotational pieces in there. But it's going to be important to see, and what you need to watch for is the first time a running back gets hit, like where the first contact comes from, I should say, when everybody's got the ball. You want to see it beyond the line of scrimmage. If it's behind the line of scrimmage, that's big trouble for Ohio State. They should have, they got superior athletes to Indiana. They should be able to have their way with that offensive line. But that's the key thing to look out for, is where exactly is the first contact being made with Ohio State running backs, and how often does Kyle McCord or Devin Brown get rushed out of the pocket, get flushed out of the pocket, and have to make some moves their legs. How often that happens. That's the other thing you have to look for on that. I also want to see Cade Stover, the tight end, what he can do. Lots of hype around him. Like a lot of Ohio State tight ends get a lot of hype, and it doesn't always translate to great stats, but they get drafted in the NFL because they're great at blocking. In addition to the fact they're really good pass catchers. Cade Stover's a great receiver, great pass catcher. But with Ohio State, the way they run their offense, the tight ends are relied upon to really block a lot more often than, say, an elite tight end in the NFL would want to or have to. So, but that's also what makes them very attractive to NFL scouts and NFL teams, is that Ohio State's got guys that they develop as blockers, as tight ends, that also can still make plays with their hands and be a dual threat at the next level. So interesting what Cade Stover can do. Look, the defense, it's so many big plays given up in the last two games last year against Michigan and Georgia, ones we don't really want to revisit too much on. But Ohio State's defensive line and what they can do. I want to see what Jack Sawyer can do as he busts into JTT, what he can do as well. Tommy Eichenberg, but like on the defensive line, I expect them to really harass Indiana's quarterback. I expect a number of sacks. Ohio State does not pick off many passes. I think you're going to see a couple interceptions tomorrow on Saturday, I should say, in the game against Indiana. I think you'll see that. Sonny Styles is going to be out there playing in the nickel spot, and the dude's a beast. I can't wait to see him play as well. He is a freakish athlete that he's like 6'4" and 220 pounds or something. And he's cut rock solid. He's 18 years old. He's going to be a beast. He's going to be a factor all season long for Ohio State. But the defense, though, as a whole, we're going to be judging them on last year. When Jim Knowles came on board, he said, the defense I run, the style of defense that I coach, we are susceptible to giving up big plays, is what he said. But he basically also said, the goal is, though, the important part is how do you minimize them and how do you minimize the damage? If they get a big play, if the other team is a big play, does it lead to a field goal or a touchdown? Does it lead to maybe it leads to a punt still, nonetheless? But that's the thing. He said, we're going to give up big plays, is what he said. Just we need to minimize it. Now, last year, you saw it early on. Notre Dame, first play of their game, I think they had like a 50-yard gain or something. The quarterback, Finn, for Toledo, had a couple of monster plays in that one. And then we saw, obviously, what happened during the Michigan game and in the Georgia game with how much they made huge plays as well. So I'll be watching for that also to see if Ohio State can minimize that. This defense they were really good last year up until the final game of the regular season, but they did have some slip-ups in there, but they also didn't play great opponents. They didn't play like a great schedule when they were padding their stats quite a bit. Now, the defense, though, was much better last year than it was the year before. This year, having a full year in the Jim Knowles system, this year having some transfers that have come in that are going to be big-time contributors right away. They've got the guys that Jim Knowles wants. The transfers that, the transfer portal opens up. Ohio State only lost 9 players in the 2022-2023 transfer portal. That was the second fewest players lost among all big-time college football programs. So they only lost 9 guys. But they did bring in guys. They were selective about it. And there are guys that Jim Knowles on the defense side says, this guy can play in my system. I want this guy in my system. So it'll be interesting to see how that all comes together and how quickly they can gel. There's been great things coming out of camp about the defense, and they've got a tremendous opportunity on Saturday to really shine. My prediction for this game, and Ohio State's 30.5-point favorite. One of the things I've noticed early on is with the new clock rules, they don't stop the clock after every first down like they used to while they move the chain. That's not in play anymore. So you may see a little bit, you may see fewer plays than you would in a normal college football game for Ohio State. I like laying the 30.5. I think that's because I don't think Indiana scores more than 10, and I think Ohio State absolutely can score over 40. So I like the 30.5. I would take that one, even though, like I said, I know Ohio State has struggled before with Indiana at times, and first game on the road, quarterback making his first road start for Ohio State. All those things come into play. The new offensive line. But I think Ohio State's got too much firepower, though, and I think the defense will create some easy scoring opportunities for Ohio State. The Buckeyes are going to run a lot of running backs out there into the game. They're going to try a lot of different receivers, a lot of different things there. And I think the defense, I do think the Silver Bullets are back. So I think the Buckeyes will win this game by more than 30.5. There's lots of good college football on. I should say good college. There's lots of college football on Saturday, to follow as well with Big Ten teams. And we'll see what all shakes out. We'll talk after the game tomorrow, the game on Saturday, I should say, depending on when you're listening to this. I got to make sure I stop saying that. Anyway, after the Indiana game, I'll hop back on for a quick recap, and then we'll do more of a deep dive on Sunday about the game and where it sits for Ohio State next. But this has been the Buckeye Blitz. Thank you so much for tuning in. Can't wait to get the season started. Again, go to fanstreamsports.com. That's the website. The FanStream Sports app is available for Apple and Android and round-the-clock programming on the go. It's a free app. Go get it. And also, FanStream Sports Facebook group. Interact with the hosts and other fans. This has been the Buckeye Blitz, man. Thanks a lot. It's time, folks. Buckeye football season is here.